Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Alrighty, welcome to our 2024-2025 Badgers basketball primer. We have just Mike and myself tonight. Jake is under the weather, unfortunately. I know he's pretty bummed about missing the Badgers primer, but I do have his notes, so Jake will be here with us in note form or in spirit. So just Mike and myself tonight as far as on-screen appearances, but we have a lot of stuff that we're going to cover tonight, and hopefully in not too much time. We want to make sure we can get you the information and some fun predictions and conversations in a reasonable amount of time. But we're going to cover some incoming freshmen, some incoming transfers, rotations, breakouts and dark horse, reasons for optimism. We're going to go through a bunch of roles that we have for the team. We came up with 6 or 7 different roles that we're gonna talk through and give our thoughts on who's gonna occupy that role. And then, as always, we have our head and heart record predictions, and we have our bold predictions, which we'll end with because that's always the most fun thing to do. So we're gonna start, and I'm gonna go to Mike on the incoming freshmen.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Brand new year here. In addition to the freshmen, the Badgers, fun fact, we got 6 new scholarship players coming into the roster, which I guess this is a year, I guess, before I name the freshmen, this is a year of unknowns, so to speak, right? Because we're bringing in not only the freshmen, we're bringing in multiple transfers. We're in a new era of college basketball.
A lot of roster turnover.
We're kind of catching up to things of how it works in terms of, the NIL transfer portal. We're getting into the meat and potatoes of that. And yeah, even before I go into it, I was listening to a podcast called The Camp, and Greg Gard was talking about, what's the future look like? How does this work with, transfer portal and all that? And one of the biggest things he really pointed out was he loves the fact he thinks it's going to be going to the NBA model, like resembling a legit NBA model where everyone's basically working on 1-year contracts, so to speak, because then at least Coach Gard and the assistants, they can at least know ahead of time, okay, is this kid going to be here for 1 year or 2 years, or how's that going to work? But I think that's just something important to monitor as we go forward, because Badger basketball, has been a development program for the most part, where you're keeping the kids for 4 to 5 years. So it's just something to monitor as we go forward with the college basketball. So just wanted to point that out there real quick. Anyway, going into this year, the Badgers did sign 2 freshmen in the 2024 class. I'm going to start with highly touted point guard Daniel Freitag. Any Badger fans that pay attention to recruiting or anything along those lines know this name by now for sure. He's a 6'3" point guard from Bloomington, Minnesota. Fun fact, Greg Gard, this was the only point guard that Greg Gard actually offered for this class. And he offered him, back in 2022 when Daniel Freitag came to his advanced camp. And he offered him right on the spot. This is right before the kid even blew up. This is kind of one of those what Badgers program does a really good job is identifying players, both basketball and football for that matter. This was another perfect example. He stuck with this kid through and through. And then eventually when he started to blow up, he was getting offers from Baylor and Virginia. Those are the top 2 I can think of off the top of my head. But eventually, Greg Gard won this battle. Happy to have him. I mean, he's a per 247 Sports, 9th best point guard prospect for the 2024 class. It's the highest ranked point guard in program history coming into the Badger program. So it's something else to love. And another fun fact, he was actually offered in both basketball and football at Wisconsin. Believe it or not. He was also offered football at Notre Dame too, which Notre Dame, a respectable program. But in case, maybe if he doesn't get enough minutes this year, maybe Luke Fickell can borrow him a couple Saturdays yet this year at Nebraska or Minnesota. So we'll see how that goes. But the one thing that really sticks. Yeah.
I looked it up just to give the full offer rundown. Wisconsin, obviously, Minnesota, Iowa State, Baylor, Minnesota again for football, Iowa, Nebraska, Baylor, Virginia. You already mentioned Notre Dame, Kansas State, and Cal, all off for
Yeah.
Daniel Freitag.
And I mean, I can basically promise you, if you would have stuck to like one sport like football like the entire time, that offer list probably doubles for sure. So
That's a good point.
Ultimately, what we're getting out of Daniel Freitag, freakish ability stands out point blank for sure. If you watch highlights, you're going to see a bunch of dunks. You're going to see, yeah, like I said, a bunch of athletic ability. His passing vision, I think, is another call out. He averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists last year. And he knows where his players are at all times. I mean, as a point guard, he should know that. But I think just like the presence of mind definitely sticks out. The one question I have with him, at least from the start, is going to be his shooting ability. I think, the last couple of years, he has been able to score at will due to his athleticism, but it hasn't necessarily been from his outside shooting. So that's something I'm looking forward to seeing developing through the Wisconsin program. We do like to shoot the 3 ball in this program too. So I think he's going to have opportunities to get better in that sense. So very, very excited for Daniel Freitag to join the program. So then the second the second kid going into the program, another kid from Minnesota, 6'6" guard / forward, Jack Robeson from Lakeville, Minnesota. For any Badger fans that know what Lakeville, Minnesota is, you should know. This is the 4th Badger basketball player in the last 5 years that we've taken out of there. It started with Nate Reavers, then it came down to Tyler Wall, then most recently Nolan Winter, and now Jack Robeson, who was high school teammates with Nolan Winter. So the Lakeville, Minnesota pipeline is fine and dandy these days. What sticks out about Jack Robeson, he's a lefty. He's a straight-up shooter. 6'6", lengthy guard. Shooting ability stands out. He's got great offensive instincts, too, and just has a nose for the ball. Everything that I've watched him film-wise, offense completely sticks out to me with him coming off of flare screens and just catch and shoot. He's got range. He can shoot all over the place, basically. So that's one thing that stuck out. He was in the Final Four for Mr. Minnesota basketball last year for high school, averaged 22.6 points and 6 rebounds his senior year. I guess the biggest question mark I have is who he's going to guard defensively. Not necessarily a lockdown guy at his size. So where exactly do you put him? That's going to be the biggest question mark, I think, at least as he starts his career at Wisconsin. So I guess I am going to point out one more thing. He is multidimensional. I could see him playing the shooting guard spot, small forward. If you even want to go small, you can even put him as a stretch forward too. So two guys that I'm very excited about joining the program. And I think going to have a few great careers here at Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I'll throw just one other freshman in there is Riccardo Greppi coming from Italy. Not a ton of information about him, but he was looking to come over to the United States to do basketball and academics. And he was originally committed to Temple until Wisconsin was able to flip him in a really short time period. They were just essentially looking for another center to add to the roster. So probably not a name you're going to hear a ton, but still just another incoming freshman. So we're going to go to the incoming transfers, and I'm going to go over to Jake's notes, and I'm going to read his notes on Xavier Amos, the transfer from Northern Illinois. He's a 6'8", 215-pound power forward. He played and started in 25 games last year, averaging 13.8 points, 5.8 rebounds, 1.2 assists, and 1.3 blocks. He shot 49.6% on field goals and 38.5% from three-point range. He was in double figures 16 times, including 8 20-point games, 3 10-rebound games. He led Northern Illinois in scoring 9 times, in rebounding 10 times, in blocks 9 times, in steals 9 times, and his season high scoring last season came against Northwestern, and he had 26 points and 7 rebounds. Very interested to see how Xavier Amos fits into the roster, and we'll talk about some of the rotations when we get to that. As far as Mike, myself, and Jake is going to cover big men. I'm going to cover wings, and Mike is going to cover guards. That's how we're going to try to split it up this year, and see how we can be able to cover everything without all of us having to cover everything and being able to split some things up like we've done with Badger football, which takes inspiration from what we've done with the Packers. But so looking at it, that's Jake's notes on Xavier Amos for wings. For me, or for bigs, for me, looking at the wings, I covered John Tanji. He's 6'6", 215 pounds. He is a unit. But he's listed as a shooting guard. He's probably going to play like a little bit more small forward, but John Tanji is a unit, and it's really interesting. But people are going to look at him as a transfer coming from Missouri, and they're going to look at his Missouri numbers. He played 8 games last year due to an injury. And they're going to see Missouri, and you're going to be like, oh, wow, we got a guy who averaged 2.6 points, less than a rebound a game, and 0.4 assists. Oh, great. So glad we added that guy. He only played 8 games last year. So looking at the year before, when he was at Colorado State, he averaged 14.6 points, 4.7 rebounds, 1.3 assists while shooting 47.3% on field goals, 38.9% on threes, and 81.5% at the free throw line. So his career numbers, like outside of even just the last 2 years, his career numbers, he's a 45.3% field goal shooter, 37.1% three-point shooter, and an 81.5% free throw shooter. That is very, very reliable shooting from a dude who is also very athletic and very strong. So watching his game tape, he is very strong. He can slash to the hoop kind of. This is me saying this. Dwayne Wade is my favorite player. He reminds me of his slashing ability a little bit, and he can throw down. Yeah. John Tanji can throw down. There's a couple plays from him at Colorado State. It's like 2 back-to-back plays in his highlight reel where he does like a behind-the-back cock-back dunk, and it's like, is this the same dude that's also shooting threes, like 3 steps behind the three-point line? He's got a really nice jump shot. So I really believe that John Tanji is a true 3-level scorer. The only thing I'll say is he could stand to improve his ball handling a little bit.
I would not discount the Colorado State program he came from either. You're talking about Colorado State that has been on
and has made some noise. So for any fans that are thinking, oh, it's Colorado State, I mean, they've been in the tournament in recent years. So I mean, I would not underestimate the program that he came from like one bit. So just throwing that out there.
The dude can ball. There's no doubt. All right. So then you have the incoming the incoming guard transfer.
Yep. So it was funny when you said the word unit before, because this point guard transfer, I think, is also a unit. So the point guard transfer that the Badgers brought in, his name's Cameron Hunter, listed at 6'2", 222 pounds.
Damn.
From Central Arkansas. So he did not play in the 2023-2024 year either due to injury. He was a 2-year starter prior to that at Central Arkansas. He was the Atlantic Sun Freshman of the Year. And he was first team Atlantic Sun in 2022 as a freshman. He was third team Atlantic Sun in 2023. Most recently, he averaged 16.9 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists in his last full year of playing. So he definitely is making an impact. He's built. I literally jotted down here. He is built like a linebacker. And the physicality is there for him to play in the Big Ten. He can be a 3-level scorer, but I think the biggest part that I love the addition-wise is that the Badgers have typically liked to recruit point guards that can do things in the post. And you're thinking of guys. I'm thinking of Josh Gosser. Literally off the top of my head, that was one of his specialties. Cameron Hunter can do that as well. He can post up down low and get to the hoop down there. So that's probably the biggest thing I really, really like about his game. He can body up with any point guards, I think, in the Big Ten for sure. So that's going to be fun to watch. The biggest question mark for me is going to be, how does he fit the rotations, at least to start? And I think I kind of question that a little bit with the transfers too, even though I think John Tanji is going to be one of the starting 5. That's besides the point. But how he fits in the rotations, defense specifically, and this kind of goes for all new incoming Badger players, I guess, because Greg Carter has talked about that a lot lately in terms of, how, like, defensively, where are you in certain spots, just the communication, and how do you fit in that role? Because it's not just about offense, right? It's about defense too. And that's just something I think that is being stressed going into this year.
With there being so much roster turnover, there's going to be a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball, honestly.
Yeah.
So we're going to give our thoughts on the rotations, and it's going to be tough. So I kind of looked at like the 2 and the 3 as far as the wings are concerned, and this is going to overlap with Mike a little bit as far as the guards go. But personally, I think that Blackwell and Klesmit are going to start at the 2 and 3, and you're going to see John Tonje and Marcus Ilver follow. Marcus Ilver actually came into the scrimmage on Wednesday and he scored 8 points in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, it was wild.
He just came in and started stroking threes, and it's like, all right, cool.
It was typical Marcus Ilver, like when any fans that really pay attention to watch him play. As soon as he gets on the floor, he's gonna shoot the 3 ball, and he's gonna shoot. Well, he's gonna shoot right away as soon as he gets out there. And right on schedule, he did it again the other night. That's Marcus Ilver, right on point.
Yeah. So very interested to see how the wing rotations go, but those are the 4 guys that I'm kind of looking for playing the most on the wings. Yeah. So where are you with the guard rotation?
It's really interesting because at least in this first game this past week, the starting 5 was John Blackwell really at the 1. Klesmit at the 2, Tonje at the 3, Nolan Winter at the 4, and Steve Carl at the 5. Now I'm kind of thinking, okay, this might be, and we're going to talk about this later with the whole best 5 thing.
Yep.
But I think based off of experience, like within the program,
yeah.
I mean, Tonje does have 4 years of college experience playing ball too, so I can see why, because he's got plenty of history, why Greg Gard went that route.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting to see going into the year. For guards, I mean, the first 2 that I'm going to talk about the most actually are going to be Max Klesmit and Kamari McGee. I actually do expect Kamari McGee to have a big year for this program. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit in another segment as well. I think he's going to be the first guard off of the bench, probably the 6th man too, to be quite honest. If the starting lineup stays how it was on Wednesday, I guess. I could see that happening. I could see that starting lineup happening on Monday, probably until they start to figure it out. They had 14 different, I think it was 13. Yeah, 13 different guys playing this game on Wednesday. 9 to 10 of which, I mean, looking at first glance, I could see making this rotation. And Greg Gard was actually talking about on the camp podcast, he still wants to get to that 8 number in terms of having 8 players in the lineup. Yeah. Maybe 9 on occasion. So it's going to be very, very interesting how this works out. But you got Max. I'm just gonna throw out Max Klesmit, obviously with the guards, 3rd year with the program. 9.9 points last year, 2 rebounds, 2 assists per game, 39.8% from the 3. He actually, if you watched him most of the year, there were times where he looked like the most unstoppable player on the court, and there's times where he kind of disappeared. For example, his highlight, I think the one game that jumps out at me immediately is 21 points all in the first half against Marquette. That was an absolute insane,
wild.
The most insane heater I've ever seen in a game, to be quite honest. He was lights out, and he literally put Marquette in the rearview mirror in the first half. It was done. And Marquette had a fantastic year, and Klesmit literally just shot them out of the building. So I mean, that's just one example. His game winner against Purdue in the Big Ten tourney was insane. I think I damn near got a heart attack after that. I was jumping for joy. Obviously, that was a freaking battle. Zach Edey, we don't got to go down that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he had a career high 26 points against Indiana at home last year. And so just putting games like that, multiple games like that together. But there were times where he did disappear a couple times. Like where was he? Like we could have used him in certain circumstances. So for this year specifically, I'm looking for consistency. We need him. He's one of the leaders on the team. We need him to be consistent and reliable on a game-to-game basis. So I'm just looking to see how that's going to work for him. And then Kamari McGee, as I said, I'm going to talk about him real quick. Again, 3rd year with the program, and he's just a spark plug. I mean, he makes everyone on the court better point blank. I mean, there's a 5-game stretch when he was out last year, and we talked about this in the group chat, how much we actually miss him because he literally makes everything better and does all the dirty work. I mean, he's a stat stuffer. Like the other against River Falls the other night, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block, 1 steal.
He legit reminds me of the way that like the Pacers use TJ McConnell and the way that the Celtics use Peyton Pritchard. He's going to be like that kind of guy for the Badgers, where he just comes in, he's gonna try to hit some threes, and he's gonna try to piss off your point guard.
Correct. I literally wrote, he's going to get in your face.
So, I could see him averaging over a steal a game this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking about him more. He might be my guy tonight. But anyway, I think one of the most inspiring games he had, his first game back last year after he missed those 5 games, it was against Rutgers, and he scored 11 points off the bench, 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. It was insane. First game back from injury, it was at home. Crowd was just going nuts for him. And he's a fan favorite as far as I'm concerned. So definitely looking forward to him. And just not afraid to get dirty or very aggressive. So I'm looking forward to see how he going into his senior year. I believe he's a senior this year. How he looks. I think he's going to look great. I think his minutes are going to go way up, and he's going to provide a spark for these guys.
Yeah, so looking at Jake's notes on the bigs, he's obviously got Nolan Winter and Stephen Crowell in there. For Winter, his notes are a tall, lanky kid who has a skill set to be a difference maker if the tools are sharpened. He has a nice 3-point shot. Would love if he added 15 pounds of muscle to be able to play down low some. Pretty similarly to how I felt about Nolan Winter last year. Stephen Crowell is going to be a very interesting piece this year, and he was on my shit list a little bit last year because of the amount of times where he would catch the ball on the 3-point line with his feet facing the sideline. So I am going to jump in on Jake's notes here and just say, Stephen Crowell, if you catch the ball, face the basket, please, because you can shoot threes, and he's hit some clutch threes. So Jake's notes on Stephen Crowell are that he needs to play consistently with physicality and toughness. He's an okay shooter, has a good right-hand hook, and uses his length well on defense sometimes. Then the other big men that he has listed, he's got Marcus Ilver on there. His notes on Ilver says, oozes potential, lacks confidence, has good size and quickness for the 4 spot. We'll see if they use him at the 4 or the 3 or both. Carter Gilmore, fundamentally sound on both ends, plays with toughness. Everyone wishes Crowell had. High IQ, willing to risk his body first to the floor type. He's got Chris Hodges on here, a thick leaper who can be a lob threat, a little undersized to play center and doesn't really stretch the floor. And then he does have a little bit of notes on Ricardo Greppi. He said, what I gather is that he's a big body kid who can clean the glass. I'm happy to let the coaches get their hands on him. He played 10 minutes a game for the Italian U18 team. So those are the big men coming in this year. So that's who we got at the power forward and centers. Now we have some breakouts and dark horses from our lists. Now, for me, I can see Jake's notes, so I can see that Jake and I have the same dark horse, and we have the same breakout. So Jake went outside the bigs for breakout candidates, and he put John Blackwell as the obvious and correct choice. He showed some really nice potential with his handles, 3-point shot, and on-ball defense. If he can prove as a playmaker and ability to finish among the trees, he could be a star. My notes on John Blackwell, I think he's going to play guard and wing, but he's going to benefit a lot from the vacancy left by AJ Storr. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting thing. Could have probably been its own segment of who benefits most from the exit of Chucky Hepburn and AJ Storr. And you could use John Blackwell as the answer to both. So his dark horse then is Marcus Ilver, who is also on my list, but his notes on Marcus Ilver, not known to the casuals, but I love his size and fluid release from beyond the 3-point line. He will need to get tougher in the paint to carve out some real minutes. If he does, he becomes a nice rotation piece. My notes on Marcus Ilver said if he's knocking down shots, he's going to see the floor more. And spoiler alert, I'm going to have more coming on Marcus Ilver. So, Mike, who is your breakout and your dark horse? Gonna have to have you start over, Mike. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Still can't hear me.
Oh, there we go. Now I got you.
Good. Now, okay.
All right, start over.
I stuck to the guards on this on my end. So my breakout, I got Kamari McGee. I think
Love
he
it.
takes a huge step this year.
Love it.
I think he's going to average 15 to 20 minutes per game this year. I honestly think that.
Yep, I can see that.
He looks like he belongs out there with everybody else now. I mean, it took him a
Yep.
couple of years. Now I think he's fully adaptive to the Big Ten, to D1 high Power 4. Power 4 sounds weird now. I was about to say Power 5, but Power 4 college basketball. I think average of 1.3 points last year. I think he can get to like that 4 to 5 points per game, like 3 to 4 assists, and even 1 to 2 steals per game this year. I honestly think he can get to that. I think it's doable because right now, I think out of the 3 point guards on the roster, between him, true point guards now, between him, Freitag, and Cameron Hunter, I think he's the most ready right now. Not trying to discount the other guys, obviously, but I think at least to start, I think he's the most ready. He's got he's been battle tested for the last 2 years now. And I think he's got a huge opportunity to help us win some games this year and be maybe not necessarily go-to scorer or anything like that, but just like doing all the dirty work and just making players better and getting that 15 to 20 minutes per game. And I think we're going to hear his name a lot this year.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And my dark horse, this is real dark, okay? I'm talking, so I got redshirt freshman walk-on Jack Janicki for any bet. Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why I bring that up, he's been the talk of this fall camp. Between John Blackwell quoted him the other day. Coach Gard has talked highly about him. He just talked about he knows the rotations, being in the right spot. And one of the key things he pointed out was being reactive versus proactive, right? That's kind of the difference between, some Badger players that have been in the program now for even just 1 year versus some of these transfers that are coming for the first time. They don't have like that first year under their belt. Jack Janicki's been called up by Coach Gard and potentially has been talked about getting to that 8 to 9 player rotation. I'm not going to put all my money on my eggs in one basket going off of this game the other night, but I mean, he played more minutes than Xavier Amos, Cameron Hunter, Freitag, Robeson. That doesn't mean too much. Marcus Ilvery played more minutes than 5 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But I mean, no, this is a freshman who actually turned down other Power 4 offers from Wake Forest, DePaul, to come to Madison to walk on, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how his career turns out. And I mean, the way it sounds, he's got a shot. I mean, he's been talked about all fall camp, not players and the coach. So he's going to be my ultimate dark horse.
Yeah, that's deep in the bag for the dark horse on that one.
Yes, it is.
So I think we have a really cool segment here, and it's the reasons for optimism for the 2024-2025 Badgers. I'm excited because I haven't seen Jake's yet, even though I have his notes. So I'm going to start with Jake's reason for optimism. His reason for optimism is lineup flexibility. Gard and company have done a really good job of adopting the NIL and using it to create a modern roster. Badgers can go big, small, and spread the floor with shooters and have a defensive lineup. So I like that from Jake. Mike, what's your reason for optimism for the Badgers this year?
That's definitely part of it. The first thing I did put down is we're going to have options. I think we're going to be able to guard big teams or small teams regardless. We'll be able to do proper rotations depending who we play. If we play some big motherfucker over in Purdue versus playing a team like Michigan State who's not as big, we can go big, we can go small. We'll be able to adapt to that. And what I also like about this is, I mean, it's great having star players. We don't have many star players, quote unquote, but we definitely will have multiple guys that can come in and contribute right away. I mean, it's only a matter of time before all these transfers are going to be accustomed and accumulated to the system. And then I have no doubt we're going to, I think for sure we have that set. We have 7 to 8 guys that for sure can go on the court right now,
right,
make a big impact. I think that number is going to climb as the season goes on. Once, the transfers start to get, their feet wet a little bit and whatnot. But
Sure.
I just like the fact that we don't have many star players, but we have many
A lot of
upper
dudes.
D1 caliber guys
Yeah.
that can play at any given moment. And it's going to be by committee this season. Someone else is going to have to step up throughout the year. Yeah, that's how I would word it.
All right. So I've been waiting to get to this primer because it's something that a lot of people haven't given any credit to. And I've been waiting to bring up the fact that Luke Fickell's recruiting strategy is rubbing off on Greg Gard. We've had for the 2 years that we've had Luke Fickell, we've had the Luke Fickell bat signal. And
Yep.
lo and behold, the first Badgers season that we're going to have after the first full season of Luke Fickell, now Greg Gard is doing recruiting videos on Twitter.
Yeah.
Wonder where that idea came from. So I love that Greg Gard is adapting and changing, especially in the recruiting aspect. I think it's something that rubbed off from Fickell, and he's realizing that college kids like being spotlighted on social media. It makes them feel recognized. It makes them feel wanted. And that's something that future recruits will also appreciate about Wisconsin. Hey, their coach is excited to have me here. They're excited to tell people that I'm coming to Wisconsin. They're excited that they are going to be embraced by the fans who are excited to know who the next recruit coming in is. It's created a lot of buzz, especially in the football program in the first 2 years of Luke Fickell, and now it's transferring to the basketball side, which is something I've been really excited about.
Yeah.
Also, the scrimmage Wednesday night, the Badgers shot over 30 3-point shots. This goes to the point on saying that Greg Gard is kind of changing with the times, and you brought the NIL factor of it in, but changing with the times of not just how the college game is changing, but how the NBA game is changing. The NBA is going very 3-point central. So you think of, Wisconsin doesn't have a lot of NBA talent because they haven't played an NBA game. They've been very like slow pace, slow scoring. We're gonna grind out possessions and play defense. And it kind of changed a little bit last year. The Badgers last year played with a little bit higher pace, and it was fun. Obviously, AJ Storr contributed to that very much. Chucky Hepburn still kind of played a little bit slower pace, but Chucky Hepburn's not here anymore. And with the amount of roster turnover, I think we're going to see some scheme turnover, some strategy turnover. And Greg Gard, on the subject of shooting 30-plus threes, he said, because that's where the game is going. So Greg Gard is recognizing that it's not just about what's going on in college basketball. Greg Gard is paying attention to where the NBA game is going, so that recruits can view Wisconsin as a potential stepping stone to the NBA. And that is something that could potentially help increase recruiting. Now, one name that I have to bring up in this conversation, and it's not a player. It is a coach that is coming into Wisconsin this year. Very familiar name, though, and it's Greg Stiemsma. Greg Stiemsma made the rounds at some pretty interesting spots in the NBA as far as his coaching career goes, including being at Minnesota when Anthony Edwards was drafted and being at San Antonio last year. A guy named Victor Wembanyama was there and doing some crazy things. Greg Stiemsma was a part of that coaching staff, and now he's back at Wisconsin. So very, very interested to see how a guy like Greg Stiemsma, who's got a lot of respect among NBA coaching, also spent time with a guy like Brad Stevens, who has had success in the NBA and in college, how much that relationship can rub off. I am very, very excited about the addition of Greg Stiemsma back to Wisconsin basketball. Try again.
Not bad for a kid from Randolph, Wisconsin, huh?
For sure. All right, so we came up with this. It took about 5 minutes of bouncing ideas off of each other to come up with a name for this segment, and we're going to call it Badger Roulette. So it's like a roulette wheel, but it's for the roles that we're going to project for Badger basketball. So we have shooters, our dream pick and roll combo, the clamp defender, the closer, the best 5 and then the team MVP. So, Mike, give me your shooter. Who's your shooter?
I got Max Klesmet.
Oh, I was really, really close to putting Max Klesmet, but I'm going to come back to him. Jake has John Blackwell. I put John Tanji. Seeing John Tanji's jump shot is so smooth. I'm like, watching his tape, I'm like, I cannot wait to see him on the floor. I'm really excited for John Tanji.
He has no problem shooting the three. I watched that game the other day. He has no problem cutting it loose. I can promise you that. You are going to see him shoot the three ball.
And he can dunk too. Oh, I'm so excited for John Tanji. I should have made him my dark horse. If I had known beforehand that Jake had Marcus Silver, I would have changed it to John Tanji. All right. Who is your dream pick and roll combo for this year's Badgers?
It took me a little bit of thinking here. I got John Blackwell and Big Steve for this one. I just think of like Blackwell, if he's going to start at point, at least from the start, he is a 3-level scorer. We've seen him shoot the 3 ball. He's got the mid range and he can get to the bucket too. I mean, I also think about it like there was plenty of times last year, for example, and he was running baseline. He was able to drive baseline on dudes and get to the bucket and get a couple and ones. Yeah, so I mean, just a 3-level scorer for sure. So if he can I think you can definitely do the pick and roll game with a guy like Steve. And little pick and pop action. Why not?
Yeah, that's definitely a good call. I went very much on the young side of things, and I put Daniel Freitag and Nolan Winter.
Okay.
If you remember last year, our Badgers primer, I was a big Nolan Winter guy. I'm still a big Nolan Winter guy. And, if we get into some young lineups, seeing Freitag and Winter would be a really fun one. Jake has half of my pick and roll combo. Jake has Freitag and Amos. And I think there's some lob opportunity there, which could be fun.
Yeah. I think there definitely is. I definitely want to see more of Xavier Amos for sure. And again, this is a year of question marks for sure. So, Xavier Amos only got to play 7 minutes the other night. So I think we're going to see still plenty of him at some point this year. Yeah. It's only a matter of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing the athleticism and he can shoot. That's why he was also brought in. He's basically Tyler Wall's position, but he can actually shoot. So we're going to bring the defenders out to make sure they're guarding him. So excited to see what he can do.
Yeah. All right. Who's your clamp defender?
I've been harping on him all night. It's Kamari McGee for me.
That's a good one. I have John Blackwell. I think the size helps a little bit there. Jake has Max Klesmet as his, but he's also got a shout out to Kamari McGee for his great energy on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Like I said, I expect him to be a pest. He's gonna bug annoying opponent guards, and they're gonna be like, "I hate this guy. Get him away from me." That's how I view Kamari McGee for this season for the Badgers. I'm excited to see him, and I really like that breakout pick by you. All right, who's your closer?
I went back and forth with this so many times, but I'm gonna go with Max Klesmet on this.
3 for 3.
Because we've seen him do it. We saw him do it last year. That I go back to the Purdue game. I go to, again, Marquette. I think of Indiana. I think of Northwestern. I think of even Illinois in the Big Ten championship game. Him and Chucky were throwing some haymakers, especially in that second half. So we have seen him do it. So at the end of the day, that's why I went with Max Klesmet on this one.
So Jake also has Max Klesmet, and I also have Max Klesmet. And I think even back to the year before when he had some really clutch buckets against Michigan the year before last year. So even just remembering that and the experience that he has is obviously a big benefit between him and Steven Crowell. I mean, those are the top of the rotation guys that have the most experience on this team because, again, there is so much roster turnover. Mm-hmm. So not saying that Crowell can't be a closing guy, but if you need a late bucket, Max Klesmet is our guy.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to give Jake's best 5 first. This is interesting. He said his best 5 is Freitag, Blackwell, Klesmet, Amos, and Big Steve. By the end of the year, he wants to be able to include Nolan Winter here. So it's interesting. So I have my best 5 being John Blackwell at the 1, John Tanji, Max Klesmit, Xavier Amos, and Stephen Crowell. So who is your best 5 on the floor?
Yeah, I wrote subject to change in asterisk here, but I went with the starting lineup, what they had the other night, because I honestly think this is 4 now. I say subject to change for a reason. Once these players get their feet wet, then it can definitely change. So I got John Blackwell, Max Klesmit, John Tanji. I actually did put Norland Winter in there, and I got Big Steve to close it out. You just looking at it, I could easily see, Xavier Amos obviously cracking the top 5 here. Maybe does Freitag take a jump? Maybe, perhaps. Yeah, it's good. It's a year of question marks, but it also makes you excited too.
Absolutely,
in a way,
it does.
Which
spoiler
at the
alert,
end of the day, it's going to be by committee. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with that too. And it's again to bring up the same phrase. There's a lot of roster turnover, so there's going to be a lot of feeling things out here.
Mhm.
But spoiler alert, you're going to hear more about me saying Daniel Freitag's name again when we get to our last segment. All right, Mike, give me your team MVP.
I got to go John Blackwell. I think it's going to be John Blackwell at
My
the end of
man.
the day. The year 1 to year 2 jump's going to be interesting. I expect. We're going to get to. Yeah, I'm going to mention him later. But
Me too.
he's
Yes.
league. I wrote he's league right next to it, right next to his name after team MVP. I mean, he was a starting 1, so to speak. The other, he can play multiple positions too. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Hell, maybe even the 4. I don't even know. Depending who they're playing. But no, 3-level scorer. I have no doubt he is going to be a go-to. I know I said Max Klesmit before, but I literally wrote John Blackwell right next to him because I do know he's going to be called upon at some point to close a game or to get that tying bucket. It's only a matter of the right situation.
Yeah, love that. I also have John Blackwell as my team MVP. Jake has Max Klesmit. Jake's notes on Max Klesmit say he's the best all-around basketball player on this roster. He's never afraid to take the shot or when asked to make a stop, he's an absolute gamer. And I don't hate that pick. I don't hate that pick.
Not at all.
All right. Let's do some record predictions. So with our record predictions, when we do our primers, we do a head record prediction and a heart record prediction, one to give a little more analytical, viewpoint on it, and then one being a little more optimistic, maybe throw in some upsets. So I'll give Jake's first. Jake's record prediction, he has 19-10 from the head and a 5 seed in the NCAA tourney and 22-7 from the heart. So he's got 22 wins from the heart, 19 wins from the head. Mike, what do you have as a record prediction?
So this is actually an interesting schedule. I think, I was going to talk about the schedule first. So the hardest game on the schedule, I would say, is Arizona, right? Well, that's actually a big night. So I'm just going to call that out real quick because it is, number 1, it's a Friday night. Number 2, where it's a banner night for Bo Ryan. He's getting inducted. He's getting a banner put up for him. They are honoring both of the Final Four teams as well that night. Funny they do it when the night we play Arizona. And that was definitely on purpose for sure. So I wanted to call that out, and it's actually really fun. Not to bring too off topic here, but the following day is when Oregon comes to town for football.
Oh, so
that's one hell of a weekend.
You imagine if Wisconsin wins both of those games? Bro, Madison's going to be crazy that weekend.
Yeah. It's
wow.
It's it's crazy. It's crazy as hell. So we got to be on our A game that weekend for sure. We're going to have a packed full house for this game. I wrote it in as a win. I know that's more so of a heart, but even from the head, I even took them too as well. I think we're going to find a way. We got to stop Caleb Love. But that's what Kamari McGee's for. So, but anyway, back to I for some reason I wrote down 31 games in there. I think it's because
I have 31 games as well. I don't know. I think Jake didn't have his the tournament in there, is what I'm guessing.
So from the head, I have 18-13. And we make it in as like a 10 to 12 seed, and we win 1 first-round game. From the heart, not too much of a difference. But I specifically called out we'd be 4th to 5th in the Big Ten. I have 20-11.
All right, so I do have a pretty big difference in mine, and I broke it into 5-game chunks as I went through it. So from the head, I have 19-12, so I'm not far off from you. From the heart, I have 24-7.
Woo!
Now like
Yeah.
I said, I added some upsets in there.
Yeah.
But for me, when I was looking at the chunks of the schedule, the chunk that really stands out to me, this is a little bit over 2 weeks of a stretch, but they from January 29th to February 15th, they go at Maryland, at Northwestern, home against Indiana, at Iowa, at Purdue.
That is rough.
That is a gauntlet of games
Ugh.
from January 29th to February 15th. So if the
Ooh.
Badgers are going to have a chance at reaching my heart record prediction, it's going to need to be a strong stretch in those 4 out of 5 games on the road.
Hell, even that Illinois game when they come back home,
Yeah.
right after that, But no,
Yeah.
I hear you. That is kind of a gauntlet.
Yeah. All right. Last thing that we have is some bold predictions here. And I'm going to read Jake's first one first. I'm going to try not to look at his other two. Jake's first bold prediction is that Freitag will break John Blackwell's freshman scoring record of 7.9 points per game.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
All right. Give me your first one, Mike.
So this is interesting and the reason why I did this one is because when literally it popped in my head because what Greg Gard said about the 3-pointers. So I got the Badgers are going to score 100 points in a game at least 4 times this season.
Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one.
We did it once last year, just for reference.
I like that. I'm going to give my Daniel Freitag bold prediction, and it's that Daniel Freitag is starting at point guard before the calendar hits 2025.
Okay.
And this goes to serve the point that you and I have both made, that John Blackwell can play anywhere from the 1, 2, 3, or in a pinch, maybe the 4. But I do see a scenario where they can go Freitag, Blackwell, Klesmit at the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Jake's second bold prediction is the Badgers will win the Big Ten, rank in the top 5 for over 50% of the season.
Wow.
Badgers will win the Big Ten, rank in the top 5 over 50% of the season. I don't know if he means top 5 in the Big Ten, as opposed to being top 5 in the rankings. Maybe that's where he's going.
He might be sipping on the cough, a little too much cough medicine. I don't know. We might have to confirm with him.
If he's meaning top 5 in the Big Ten, that part of it I could see.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
No, he said nationally. Jake said nationally. Top 5 nationally, 50% of the season.
Man. Okay.
All right.
You're way more optimistic than me. This is weird.
We said weird. They're not lukewarm predictions. They're the bold predictions. So, all right, Mike, give me your second one.
This one's kind of raw. Well, not really kind of raunchy. It's not too bad. But I got Kamari McGee gets Big Ten All Defensive Team.
I like that. I like that one a lot.
I think he's gonna cause havoc. I think he's gonna make people, a lot of players hate him this year.
All right. This one is going to go to my team MVP pick of John Blackwell. My John Blackwell bold prediction is that he averages 15 plus points, over 5 rebounds, and over 1 steal per game.
Okay.
So 15, 5, and a steal per game for John Blackwell.
I'm just going to go on top ears because mine's John Blackwell related. John Blackwell, Big Ten Player of the Year.
Ooh, I like that a lot. We kind of tiptoed around it, like I said before, with the absences of AJ Storr and Chucky Hepburn. I think John Blackwell has the opportunity for his role to increase the most. So,
yeah. Yep.
All right. Jake's last bold prediction: Marcus Ilver and Nolan Winter will combine for 100 3-pointers.
Holy shit!
So 30. You're looking at 31 games.
Yeah.
100 threes. So you need 3 threes a game from Ilver and Winter, essentially.
Okay. I mean, Ilver will get his up. That's good though. I like that. That's why this is bold. That's why.
That's a solid prediction. All right, here we go. Last bold prediction. Mine is that the Badgers will finish top 3 in the Big Ten on the backs of a top 4 Big Ten offense. So last year they were 8th at 74.7 points per game. Top 4 last season would have been 78 plus on average.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's
All
not,
right.
it's
All
not
right.
really a crazy amount. I'm just asking for the Badgers to average about 3 or 4 more points per game.
They can do it. They're gonna be like they're gonna shoot the three ball. They're gonna shoot a lot of threes.
And I think the pace is going to be a little higher again.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Greg Gard keeps talking about the NBA model. I think he's
Yeah.
gonna get as close to that as he can. I mean, just from a recruiting perspective too, that's where kids are going to be drawn to. A lot of threes are shot in the NBA. I don't know.
I think too, if they have the opportunity to take an open 3 early in the shot clock, that might have been a shot they would have passed up in years past, just in the sake of, moving the ball, moving the ball, moving the ball, moving the ball, moving the ball. I think this year that's going to be a little more let it fly.
Yep. I think so too. Yep.
All right, I'm very excited. The Badgers kick off on Monday against Holy Cross. Hopefully, that's one of the first games where they get over that 100-point mark, like Mike was talking about.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking us out. We're very excited for this Badgers season. We're going to be having recaps starting on Wednesday already, which I will not be in attendance for, but Jake will have my notes and Mike will be there as well. So, other than that, thanks for tuning in to our Badgers primer, and we will see you guys next week. And go Badgers.